So we'll go straight through to the next slide. We'll try to make this as quick as possible. So for those that don't know, Wellington Shire Council is Victoria's third largest municipality. It's about 11,000 square kilometres. We stretch from Port Albert in the south and the 90 Mile Beach through to the high country in the north. 43,000 residents. Sale is the centre of our municipality, and there's about 12,000 residents there. Yes, thanks. So we're about 2.5 hours east of Melbourne, and we're the only recognised botanic gardens in eastern Victoria. There are a couple at Bairnsdale and Moe, but they're not as recognised. The gardens sit on the eastern bank of Lake Guthridge, which is fortunate for us because we can draw our irrigation from there, and it occupies around about 5 hectares of the site. It's managed by a senior horticulturalist who's stationed there full time, and he's supported by 30 within the Natural Environment and Parks team, and that includes 9 horticulturalists and a trainee. So the gardens were gazetted in 1860, around the same time as many of our other significant gardens. Townspeople and community leaders felt that the residents of Sale needed or would have improved health benefits from such an open space on the banks of what was then known as Eastern Swamp. It was laid out by prominent residents with assistance from curators and local nurserymen, and there was also assistance from Von Mueller and Guilfoyle during their tenures as curators here at Royal Botanic Gardens in Melbourne. In 1872, there was a planting day to celebrate the birthday of Queen Victoria. Many of these trees, which were donated by the community, are still significant features in our gardens today. It was during this time that the gravel paths meandering through the plantings were christened the Bachelor and Lover's Walk. These were places that the young people in the community used to court and be seen on Sunday afternoon after church. Yes, thanks. In the early 1900s, the gardens went into a long decline. The borough of Sale at the time didn't see fit to keep the gardens going and shifted their focus to Victoria Park. It became the home of the Sale Golf Club, as well as other sporting organisations. And if any of you have been there, you've seen the tennis courts on site, which are still popular activities today. Grazing and market gardens were also commonplace in the precinct. In the late 1990s, the gardens were reawakened, and since then we've had significant ongoing works to re-establish the gardens as the premier public gardens in Gippsland. So we have 5 living collections. Back one. We have 5 living collections. We have the Elmas collection, which includes some of the trees from the 1870 plantings. We have the catalogue garden, which are plants that are representative of species that were listed in nursery catalogues from 1855 to 1889. The sensory garden collection of plants focused on horticultural therapy. These garden beds were designed by Catherine Drew in the late 1990s and were the start of our Friends group. We have the Rare or Threatened Species collection. These garden beds are collections of species that are only found within our council boundaries at the moment. We are excited to the fact that we are part of BGAN's Care for the Rare program, and these 3 garden beds will be expanded upon in the near future. And then we have the Summer Walk collection. This is the collection of a contemporary vision of the original Bachelor's Walk and demonstrates a range of exotic and indigenous plants that are well suited to a reduced watering regime. Next slide. So in 2009, as Chris mentioned, Council engaged Andrew Laidlaw to develop a plan to reinvigorate the original Bachelor's Walk. The design intent was to demonstrate a range of ornamental plants that could be used in the home garden that did not require a high level of irrigation. This is in direct response to climate change projections for the area. The outcome was 13 separate and distinct garden beds along a 300-metre path that borders Lake Guthridge. This path, as part of the loop circuit around Lake Guthridge and Lake Guide, attracts over 100,000 users each year, so it really needed to pop. As part of the original Summer Walk plan, we had about 200 species that were to be planted into these 13 garden beds. And that's just one of the plans we had. Yes, thanks. This section of the Sale Botanic Gardens chosen was going to prove a challenge. At one stage, this site had been a gravel road that formed a loop around Lake Guthridge. It was quite a popular spot for the young blokes and their hotted up Holdens to show off their skills and talent to drift around. It was also home to a fauna enclosure, which occupied around 1/3 of the garden site. The community passion for this asset is still evident today, with many people in the community still referring to the gardens as the fauna park, and it gripes me. There are also challenges around sourcing plant material. In some instances, plants that could not be sourced were replaced with readily available species that were fit for purpose. Like other botanic gardens within rural LGAs, there is limited resources available to maintaining records of our collections. Attempts were made with support from our friends group to label specimens within the summer walk, but many have been vandalised or removed and possibly at the bottom of the lake. Being a public garden open 24 hours a day, it's quite prone to visitations late into the night. There's also issues with staying true to the original plan. A few of the species within the original plant list failed. Staff who were working in the gardens during this time would remove them and replace them with a plant that they liked or not at all. No records were kept of what was planted, nor were there records kept of why the plant failed. So we have no definitive list, no single source of truth on what is actually in the summer walk. Yes, thanks. To assist with the maintenance of the summer walk collection, Council engaged Kevin Walsh to develop an annual maintenance plan. It's a bit hard to read, I appreciate up the back, but we're happy to share it round. This plan's still in use today and has assisted the staff over the years that have not had the plant knowledge to properly maintain and manage certain species. It's a very simple plan with identified range of tasks, pruning, fertilising and propagation, but it's customised to the individual species. This has over the time ceased poor practices of pruning plants, such as Mycanthus getting cut back as the flower heads are about to go that golden colour. It did happen. Yes, thanks. Next slide. So the summer walk now is 10 years old and is in need of a facelift. Some of the plants have taken over and overshadowed other plants. Staff are finding species that were not part of the original plan. Like a review of a master plan, Council are now reviewing the original plan from 2009 and are assessing the plantings to ensure that the summer walk still meets the original brief, to demonstrate to the broader community a range of plants that provide a great display and are suited to a reduced watering regime. Paul, our senior horticulturalist, is taking the opportunity to work bed by bed to improve the soil structure, add organic material into what was once a gravel road, and where possible source plant material to reintroduce the species identified in Andrew's original plan. So in closing, the key learnings from the summer walk are the 6 Ps, from soil to record keeping, from sourcing plant material to propagating plant material. Good preparation is key to having a thriving living collection. Maintenance. You may have the best staff delivering brilliant work at the moment, but to ensure a continuation of service, make sure the processes are in place. Good record keeping. Really, any record keeping is good. Even if you're starting from a blank spreadsheet, any information can be of use determining what was planted where, what is continually failing, and what has it been replaced with. And finally, staying true to the plan. As a botanic garden, it is our core business to conserve and protect species that are planted in a living collection. It's important that the design integrity is maintained over the long term. That's it for me.